Joseph Makamba Busha was born in Mutoko in 1964 at All Souls Mission, grew up in Mutoko, and then moved to Murewa. I am a child of the Democratic African Revolution, which seeks to make sure that as Africans we achieve total self-determination. Well, I did my primary in Mutoko as a merchant. I did my high school here in Harare, and I went to University of Zimbabwe. After University of Zimbabwe, I went to further my studies in South Africa, where basically I spent the last 30 years of my life doing business and studying. I've got about 4 degrees up to MPhil level, and also I've got about 9 professional certificates I've obtained in the financial and capital markets. We are into investments, life insurance and investment banking. We are where basically decisions in terms of capital allocation, in terms of understanding how the world of finance operates and how development happens in a country. That is really where my expertise are, and that's what I've been doing for the last 24 years or so. My political journey started during the liberation struggle. All my brothers were in the war, and during the liberation struggle I was in Mujiba. So really I think it runs in the family. So it started in the sense that in the 60s, our forefathers, our leaders in the liberation struggle, the late President Mugabe, the late Joshua Mgomo, were leading the second Chimurenga so that as Zimbabweans we can attain total independence and freedom. And I think those are the things we're still trying to make sure that we fulfill, in terms of fulfilling the objectives of the liberation struggle, in making sure that we respect the values of humanity as a nation. Well, I grew up in ZANU-PF. I was a card-carrying member of ZANU-PF until 1986. I think any person in Zimbabwe were either ZANU-PF or ZAPU during the liberation struggle. Those were the 2 organizations that were leading the fight against colonialism, a fight against oppression, racial discrimination, and the social ills we experienced as Africans during the Ian Smith regime. But in 1986, just at the death of the late Samora Machel, who was kind enough to be able to give us bases and home to be able to launch our fight against Ian Smith regime, I made a decision and that ZANU-PF and realized that ZANU-PF was not going to fulfill the tenets of the liberation struggle. They're not going to fulfill the objectives of the people's struggle, and I left ZANU-PF then, and late in the 90s I certainly started thinking about forming a party so that I would be able to complete what those who came before me could not complete. I think from the 1985 you could start seeing basically that there were challenges in the country. In 1987 we had the Willowgate scandal, where ministers were basically apportioning or giving themselves 5 cars or 10 cars and selling them to the public at massive profits. So that was really the beginning. And if you understand that most of the people who were in the struggle, crossing the countries, climbing the hills, trying to fight for freedom, they basically started feeling the pinch that they were neglected, and hence in 1997 they had the first march against discrimination and unequitable kind of sharing of national resources. That's when the former liberation veterans of the second Chimurenga were given gratuities, and that was the beginning, because the currents took a tank, because I think those who were in power at that particular time forgot that the war was not fought for an individual or for a party, but the war was fought for the entire nation of Zimbabwe. So that is really, the signs were there in terms of what was happening. I think you had good ministers that started living at that particular time. Ms. Fei Chung, who who basically was part of the liberation struggle. So you start seeing lots of movements, not based on what we needed to do, but based on cliques and people who were going to support the extractive system that was being put together by ZANU-PF. So the journey basically has been that journey of understanding, growth, reflection, to be able to understand where are we going as a nation. And when I talk about as a nation, I'm talking about as an African nation. What do we do, among other nations so that we are able to achieve what we need to achieve as a people. So the journey for me has been quite fulfilling in the sense that, we're looking to say, how do we, complete the triangle of independence, which is, the, social independence, economic independence, because today, despite the fact that we got the land, despite the fact that, we have our own people, our own kin in position of political power, we find that we actually not constructing our own destiny. Everything else is being done by the foreigners. The mines are not run by us. The airports is not even built by us. The parliament was not built by us. But these are basic issues, which is just basic construction, which I believe our people should be able to, at this particular stage, build things for themselves rather than to get foreign people to build for us. If I said that I was going to be the second democratically elected president of Zimbabwe, so my idea was not to be a councillor or to be an MP, but my idea was that you need somebody with experience, somebody with who understands the history, appreciates the history, but represent the future so that we are able to craft solutions that are good for us. So I never considered being an MP or councillor because I was not born to do that, because I believe I'm a natural leader. I believe I've got the prerequisite skills to be able to take this country forward. So you don't start by leading a nation. You start by leading yourself, making sure that you take yourself out of poverty. You then lead your family, then you lead your clan, you then lead your village, then you lead your community, and then you move national. So you just don't jump from nowhere into national. So you need to be able to create processes and programs that benefit the community. I've created employments, through my organizations, business organizations, and that is really, I think, what is lacking in Zimbabwe. People who have created something for the benefit of others, people who have done something for the greater of common good. That's what I think has been lacking in Zimbabwe from a leadership perspective. This is really my first time. In 2018, I introduced myself into the political arena as a national leader. We didn't campaign fully, but this year I think we're going to campaign. We're going to make sure that people get to understand that there is the alternative government. There is alternative leadership. There is progressive leadership that is able to craft a strategy and solutions to make Zimbabwe great again. We managed to field about 9 members of parliament, of which about 45% of our candidates are female. We have managed to field councillors. So we believe that we are on the right path. We believe that we'll be able to make a massive impact. But I think the real big kind of contestation really is about the leadership of the country. Who is going to be the father of the nation? And I believe that right now, among all the candidates that were successfully endorsed and nominated by the nomination court, I'm the best qualified leader to take Zimbabwe forward. So when you talk about experience, if you were to go for a job, right? Okay, people say, what is your experience? Experience is something you've done successfully. So the current people have been in government before, in particular the president himself. What is his record? If he were to apply for a job, say as a president of another country, what would he say were his successes in Zimbabwe? That's what defines defines experience. That's what defines what person has achieved, what you are able to do. If you are a CEO of a company, you are a CEO of a bank, you're leaving that bank to another bank. People look at what did you achieve in your previous employment. So I believe the fact that in Zimbabwe we don't have a functioning currency, the fact that we don't have factories, the fact that we cannot even build our own airports or parliament shows that we have failed to harness the talent we have to be able to do things for ourselves. So the experience has been painful for most Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe. So you could almost consider Zimbabwe to be the largest jail in the world, because everybody wants to get out of Zimbabwe to find fortunes elsewhere. Well, basically, I want to be able to restore our pride and dignity and human rights respect in the country, because I think our domestic policy should be centered on unity, human rights, and our own culture and faith. So we don't feel proud to be Zimbabweans. I want to restore that. The second thing is, how do we benefit from our natural resources, God-given natural resources, the land in particular, so that we are able to produce and feed our own people, but also feed the rest of the continent, because Zimbabwe was once the breadbasket of Africa. Now we want to make Zimbabwe the breadbasket of Africa again. We need to develop beneficiation models where we are able to exploit the natural resources, in particular the minerals, that everything we take from the ground, we make things out of here and export them as finished goods, rather than to send them as raw materials, where we lose in the beneficiation value chain in processing those minerals. Well, if you want to be a president of a country, you must be looking for your own resources. You mustn't be looking for your own house. You must have enough to be able to feed the nation. So if you don't have a house, the first thing is you're going to do, instead of building a clinic, you're going to build yourself a house. I still believe that even the 20,000 is small, because then you had lots of candidates in 2018 that were not really serious, that did not have the capacity to be able to run the country, and hence you had the bloated voting ballot. So I believe that when you are a leader, you must be able to give, and only giving you can give. So I believe even the 20,000 is small. I believe that if you belong to a society or organization, you contribute towards the running of that organization, and the candidates must be contributing towards the running of ZEC, not taxpayers' money, because that then favors the people who are already in government. I believe that for the next elections, 2028, that must be increased to $100,000. You gotta look to say, in America, for you to run, they need you to have, I think, about $5 million worth of assets, so that you are not prone to corruption. So how do you say anyone? Because once you say that, it means then the legal age of majority legal age is, I think, is 18. Then we need to change the constitution that anybody can run. So there has to be minimum criteria. You cannot do Form 6 if you haven't passed Form 4. So there has to be basic things a leader must have, so that you are able to share. But if you don't have it yourself, how are you going to pass it out to your followers, to your children, when you don't have yourself? So I think people must go and work out first, work somewhere, look after yourself, look after your family. And when you think that you do not want to benefit from the country, you want the country to benefit from you, that's the only time then you must contest. So it's not what the country can do for you, it's what you can do for the country. And this is what has brought Zimbabwe down, because most of these leaders that are in government, including those in ZANU-PF during the liberation struggle, they were funded by Cuba, Russia, and China. So they've lived on donor money and taxpayers' money, and that's all they know. So they've never created jobs, they've never worked anywhere, and hence you see that they are a very parasitic, extractive system of governance. The playing field is never even, it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be fair because they won't make it fair to get themselves out of the position. So I think I'm calling upon Zimbabweans that, disregard the mourning about reforms and the fair. Just go and vote them out. Vote them out in the sense that they failed to look after you. They've chased your people, your children, your parents out of the country into neighboring states. It's not going to stop because this started, 1987 with the Willowgate, as I said. That's when the ugly head of corruption came out to the fore with the late Maurice Nyagumbo passing away. So that is a cancer. That is a cancer, and that's why I'm saying the only way to be able to eradicate corruption and this system of oppression, suppressive government is to vote the ruling party out of power. Or the alternative is us. That's why I'm saying to you that, how do you go and elect a president who does not have a car? So if you look at the people who went into Poland, say for example, most of those people basically went to accept cars rather than to say, people don't have medicines in hospitals, clinics don't have windows, clinics don't have water. They went to accept cars that are costing about $60,000 and other perks. So this is what the late President Mugabe said, the Maduk strategy, that when you don't have money, just try and get closer to the government so they co-opt you and you make money for yourself, not for the people you claim to represent. So those people don't represent anyone. They did not have a mandate to go into Poland. That is really just was a co-option by the government so that they are able to weaken and control people. So where are those people today? Because they are enjoying in the luxuries, yet the people they're claiming to represent have got nothing. It basically puts a black blanket or black cloud over opposition that we are able to, opposition can be lowered by freebies, by food and other luxuries. Basically, I'm here to give, I'm here to serve, I'm here to be your gardener, I'm here to be your head boy, I'm here to be your advisor, I'm here to provide an opportunity for your children and the future generations. Please vote for me, vote for Joseph Makamba Busha, because I believe right now Zimbabwe is looking for a leader who is selfless, a leader who is going to be able to work day and night for the betterment of the country. But alone I can't do it. Let's make Zimbabwe great again.